up and then hit go live. That's excellent.
You're live. Whether you know it or not, you're live.
Hello everyone, thank you all for coming. My name's Eliza Brady, as you all know, and I'm here to talk to you guys about why I care about all of this. So a lot of people have asked me recently, why did you pick this passion, or just why do you care? And I've never quite known how to answer that, even when I was preparing for this talk. I still wasn't sure, because the answer is that there was no pivotal event. It was a series of events and experiences that all melded into one to create the person here in front of you today.
We'll start.
My parents are a big part of what led me to care so much about everything, but specifically they created a respect and appreciation for nature, the outdoors, the lives of animals of all sizes, these kinds of things. I remember gardening with them at my first house, going on hikes in the woods nearby, and playing outside endlessly. My mom is just about as naturally beautiful as a person can get, never worn makeup a day in her life, doesn't care for materialistic things, doesn't care for the latest fashions. She only cares about the actual quality of her life. I like to think that these qualities have rubbed off on me. As I get older, I find myself becoming more and more like her. I find myself stopping wearing makeup every day, stopped caring as much about how I look, started embracing myself. When my parents finished law school in the 80s, they packed up a couple shirts, a couple pairs of shorts, a couple pairs of socks, and set off to Asia for 6 months of backpack travel. The pictures of them from those trips are the ultimate image of carefree, hopeful, happy in love and in touch with nature. To me, they are pictures of the ideal future and of two people who are looking forward to their future. But forget about the traveling part. The part I want to focus on is the image of the carefree, in touch with the world around you lifestyle that it looked to me that my parents were living. I know they both look back on those trips as one of the happiest and most interesting times in their lives and in their relationship. When I was younger, I idolized this, of course, but as I got older, the realities of me not being able to have that same hopeful and carefree attitude dawned on me. Many people my age have not quite realized what may lie ahead in their futures, and still think that they will be able to carry on and live out their lives business as usual, as their parents and grandparents did. But there are some, like me, who hold on to a little more fear about what is in store for us. I try not to let my life be bogged down by the feelings of hopelessness, fear, and worrying, and usually I can do it. I go out with my friends, I spend time with my family, I enjoy my days. I do the normal things that other kids my age do. But when I slow down and I'm alone, and when I get to thinking, my mind goes to places that most of my friends' minds don't go, because they don't know those places exist. It goes to thinking about if the life I want for myself when I'm older will even be a possibility. I'd like to think that I'll have some semblance of a life with someone, maybe some dogs, jury's still out on the kids, but I like to imagine myself similar to the pictures I see of my parents when they were in their 20s and 30s. I really think that there's a lack of awareness among young people about what our futures might very possibly look like. And I think that is the biggest issue and biggest challenge that we will have to overcome. In my experience, the more I learned about the crisis, the more intent I became on doing something about it. My first real exposure was a class I took my senior year of high school, environmental science. This was not a required class. There were a bunch of options that year for science classes, and most students thought of this one as the easy A, or the joke class. I chose to take it for two reasons. One, the other choices were not my forte, AP Physics, AP Chemistry, etc. But the other reason was that it sparked an interest in learning something that was out of the mainstream of my high school experience up to that point. We learned a lot about systems and cycles. Some of it was pretty dull, to be honest, but we also learned about environmental disasters around the world. Watched exposing documentaries on the food industry and learned how important it was to protect the land for our wildlife. My friends in the class and I would leave class each day, shocked at what we had learned, and wondering how we could continue with our regular lives now that we knew these horrible truths. Those were the things that really stuck with me, and those were the things that got me thinking about how to help in my future. There are a lot of things I've learned this summer as an intern for Bio for Climate. A lot of things that other people my age will never learn or might not ever want to learn. I could never list it all, but one of the scariest things to me is that if the amount of carbon in the atmosphere exceeds 500 parts per million, my future is really not looking too good. I've learned that even before that happens, there's a pretty high chance of a methane spike happening in the next few decades due to the permafrost melting that would cut that future even shorter than it already feels, as the world would reach uninhabitable temperatures and the sea would rise more feet than I can even imagine happening. Those two things alone, although they are not all that could happen, are scary enough for me to want to take action. Last summer, I had the privilege of traveling to Indonesia with my dad, his girlfriend, and my sister. We were staying on this remote island with only one fishing village on it with us. It was the most beautiful place I'd ever seen. there was one flaw that was ruining that beauty. The amount of trash that washed up on the beach and all around the island was heartbreaking. I got so bothered by this that I started going up and down the beach with trash bags, picking up everything I could. I filled 3 trash bags in one day, from a beach that was probably only a couple 100 feet long. I felt good about my small contribution to cleaning up, but soon realized how little of an impact I was having when I went on a walk up the hills of the island. When I looked over the edge of the cliffs, instead of seeing the water crashing onto the rocks below, I saw piles and piles of trash. It looked like a landfill where it should have been pristine nature. Unfortunately, a lot of countries do not have the proper sanitation systems in place, and that's why a lot of debris ends up washing out to sea. But even if they did, we still produce and use a ridiculous amount of plastic, which will leave its mark on the earth much longer than we will. The experience of seeing all of that plastic washed up on that beautiful island left me feeling angry and motivated to try and help as much as I could. I think a lot of kids are sensitive about climate change, but feel that they hold no power, and that it's the older people who hold it all. We've grown up in a society run by older white men, where nothing ever seems to get done. Now we are in a society that feels even more dominated by this demographic with our new president. Kids my age are focused on other things too, like stressing about the difficult job market we face after college. Many of my friends and acquaintances chose to major in business or marketing in college, even though those were not their passions, just to get a good paying job to be able to survive in the real world. There's such a fear we all had and such pressure put on us in high school and our whole lives to do well, succeed, make money, and live happily ever after. So as a result, a lot of kids make choices that don't really align with what they truly want to do with their lives. I think the world would be a lot happier and better off if kids felt they had the option to do what they actually enjoy in life without the fear of being too poor to survive. Maybe people wouldn't grow up to be so greedy and we would stop exploiting the environment for our own gains. Kids need to be encouraged that choosing their passions and choosing what they actually want to do isn't a death sentence to their success. We need to be encouraged that we can actually make a difference in how the world is run, as it is usually young people who can make changes. And we need to think about the future we actually want to live in, not the one that might be coming for us. We did not create climate change, but it's now my generation's problem to solve. I also think that a lot of people feel hopeless because they feel the problem is just too large for them to even tackle. We need to present ways to help that are doable for people in their everyday lives. I think reaching kids as young as middle school is crucial. If an interest can be sparked, they will go home and tell their parents what they learned. Hosting talks at middle and high school assemblies, setting up opportunities for community service at farms, reaching out to teachers to talk more about global warming in their classes could all be ways to teach younger kids about the issues and inspire them to do something. We need to make caring about the environment trendy, not only for crunchy granola types, as many people dub those who care. Environmental activist Julia Butterfly Hill, who spent 738 days living in a redwood tree to stop it from being cut down, said, "What kind of world do we live in where doing the right thing has become alternative?" This statement's powerful to me, as even I have been lightly made fun of by my peers for caring. Caring about the environment should be the cool thing to do, and in order to achieve that status, it needs to be more common and mainstream so that more people catch on. It needs to be taught in schools, talked about amongst friends, and embraced as a different and better way of life for the future. Raising the question, what do you want your future to look like, is one that will really move people to make changes to their lives now. Thank you.
Wow.
So, for those of you who are watching from afar, we're now going to do a Q&A.
If anyone has questions.
So I'll ask
More
you a
light.
question. I didn't know when you were in Indonesia, you were seeing trash
Yeah,
coming up on the beaches.
yeah.
So that's the first time I've heard of that.
Yeah, mostly
you.
plastic. Everything. Like food wrappers, bottles. Plastic bottles were probably the biggest of all of it that I saw.
Devastating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it reminds me of, I was in the Caicos Islands some years ago, and I took a long walk to a very isolated beach. And there was more of the surface area covered with trash than there was sand that you could see.
Wow.
It was really horrifying.
Yeah.
Other comments or questions? Or
What do you want to be doing in 5 years? What do you see yourself doing in 5 years?
5 years, I'll be graduated from college for 2 years at that point. So, I mean, it's hard to say. I definitely see myself working in this field of interest, in this area. I'm sure I'll focus in on a specific aspect of it, but I haven't figured out what that is yet. Obviously, this summer has been really interesting and helped me develop even more than, I was before, but I still have 3 years left of classes to decide what my focus will be, and then, I'll figure it out from there, but I'm definitely planning on being in this field.
Do you have
Graduate
anything?
school?
So, what?
Graduate school?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know what I would go for yet, so.
Do you have anything in particular that really excites you right now, where you're going like, oh, I really think I want to follow that, or that and that? Do you have,
Well, I think what we're doing with Bio for Climate is really cool, and I think the best solution. So that's definitely has sparked my interest a lot. But I also think the human aspect is really important. Like, I think it's really interesting trying to get people into it, and I'm more interested in that than the scientific aspect. I think that's more my strong point.
When you said that you think, how do we make caring about the environment cool and attractive to young people?
Yeah,
What are your
great
thoughts
line.
about that?
Thanks. I mean, I think stuff catches on so easily with young people. There's like a new trend every day, and a new thing every day, and I think it's really about it sounds kind of superficial, but a lot of people follow, famous people, that whatever they see them doing, they want to do too, and copy them and be like them. So I think if you could get, it doesn't even have to be like huge celebrities, just anyone in the public eye to talk about things and care. Like, I know a lot of people know about Leonardo DiCaprio, that like everyone my age loves him, and they see him doing cool stuff like with this, they'll be like, oh, like if he cares, I should care too. So I think just getting people who are role models really to support something, then everyone else will want to copy them too.
I'm very impressed with when you were reading about how genuine it was and how much from the heart it came from.
Thank you.
And I'm just wondering, what can we do to help? You
To
and
help what?
to help in terms of your quest to find out where you're going and what you're going to be doing, stuff like that. So feel free to think about that.
Okay.
I think another thing you said too that's very interesting is bringing the education into the younger people. We need to start in grammar school,
Yeah.
not in high school and college. It has to be a younger level
Yeah.
in bringing kids in and making them more aware of what they're doing and their surroundings, and making them care so they can bring it all the way through their entire lives.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I mean, I've told everyone at Bio for Climate in our meetings the idea of doing high school assemblies, because I think when I was in middle school or high school, if I, they force you to go to them, so everybody's going to go. And if someone like you guys or another organization came and talked about it, that would have sparked my interest a lot earlier, and I would have probably started doing stuff like this earlier. So I think there's so many kids out there who just don't know how much like they really do care, I think. And then if they could be reached by someone in middle school or high school, then that could make a big difference for what they choose to do in college. So.
You did talk about wanting to make a presentation for high school.
Yeah, I think that would be huge.
Do you connect that at all with what you were thinking about doing when you go back to Tulane?
Yeah, well, I definitely want to. They don't really have any environmental clubs, I noticed, because I wanted to join one last year, and they didn't really have any. They have the Veggie Club, I think, which is about like eating vegetables. I don't know. But so I wanted to. I mean, I could start a Bio for Climate club. That would be really cool. So that's kind of my plan.
So I was talking to a psychiatrist friend last week, and she works with kids, and she was telling me about the kinds of traumatic experiences that children have, not just when there's a hurricane or a flood or a wildfire, but just from the general sense of what's going on in the world. And part of the problem is that adults don't talk to kids about this very much, yet the calamity hanging over people's heads is very much an issue for a lot of children as well as for adults. But children feel very isolated in this kind of situation. Do you have any observations about that?
Yeah, I didn't really know that, but I mean, that makes sense. A lot of times, especially in schools, they don't want to talk about hard things, and teachers try to sugarcoat things or, dance around hard subjects, whatever subject it might be. But I think I've had a few teachers who didn't do that, and it was always better when, they just tell you the truth. So I think, and I do think, it sounds bad, but I do think scaring people is important, but you also have to not do it to the point where they don't even feel like there's any point in even going on. So, I think that they should know the truth, but also know that they can help, and that maybe that'll inspire them to do something about it instead of just knowing. And
so you recently read a pretty scary article.
Yeah.
You want to tell people about that?
Yeah, I read The Uninhabitable Earth, which was, a lot of you guys probably read it too.
Yeah, it came out last month.
Yeah.
In the New York magazine.
Yeah. So it basically listed out a bunch of different sections of 7 things that they think are going to happen, like extreme temperatures, flooding, famine, water, war. It was really bad. So it was in really a lot of detail. And the picture on the front was a fossilized guy wearing aviators. So it was definitely a harsh article, but I think it's a really important one for everyone to see. I sent it to I posted it in the group and sent it around and everything. So
It's interesting. I mean, you made a comment about generations before you having the feeling that they could grow up and things would be normal and all that kind of thing, and how your generation might not be looking at the same kind of future. And yet, when I was your age, it was like we were thinking about.
We were saying some of the same things.
Yeah.
yeah.
We were thinking about, nuclear power. We didn't understand nuclear power, and somebody's survived all that.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I was thinking about every generation has their own struggles and fears. But
and somehow we survived that. But
yeah. So I mean, I think obviously, no one thought they had a perfect, fearless future. But I think this is a different one, a different fear, and I think there's less confidence that everything will just be fine for everyone. And I think it's most of the fear, that I have at least, is on the climate, because while there's so many other crazy things happening, if we can't fix that, none of that other stuff even matters. So why focus on that? You should focus on the biggest problem of them all. Otherwise,
why do you say that?
I just
none
mean
of the others would matter if we don't solve climate.
Because we won't be here. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when all the climate stuff that's in that article, starts happening, the other stuff won't matter anymore, because that'll be the only thing to focus on, surviving that.
How about solutions? These articles and public issues about the dangers to the ecosystem, the world ecosystem, are very real. It's true. There's serious threats. But where do you go from there? People tend to assume, well, we have to get angry about this and get our public leaders to do this and that about alternative energy and so forth. And that one of the things in this organization has been that there are other solutions also. and there are other things that can give people hope, which should be very empowering. It's just a matter of expressing them really clearly and making them accessible, like changes in the way we grow food and changes in the way we manage forests and all kinds of resources of our world. So do you feel like you can find a balance between the activism and the fear and anger that gets created, and directing people towards things that are positive and hopeful?
Yeah, I mean that's what I've been trying to do on the Bio4 Climate Facebook page, is when you post a problem, accompany it with a solution, so that people don't feel like they can't help at all. And I think that obviously activism is important, but now at this time in politics, I think it's probably better to just go off and do it yourself and not worry about what they're doing, because I don't know if it's really worth, well, not that it's not worth it, but I think it's probably more worthwhile to just do it on your own than try to get, the leaders to do it right now.
So if you get an environmental club started, which sounds like a great idea, do you have a priority? So you've got a bunch of students together. What would you do first? I mean, can you think of anything that would fit in the campus environment there that you think might be successful?
I think it would be cool to actually do the actual planting of the grounds to sequester carbon would be what I would want to do. Make gardens everywhere, because every campus has the huge lawns everywhere, quads, whatever, and a lot of them are used, but some of them, no one ever is out there. It's just grass. So maybe, we'd have to get probably a lot of hoops to jump through with the school, but if we could start gardens or something, Tulane also has terrible food. Maybe we could actually grow some of our own food and improve that.
Yeah.
That would be good, because it's really horrible. So yeah, and there's a lot of areas that have trees and stuff, but it's just trees and mulch. I think maybe just planting stuff and planting different plants that take in a lot of carbon all over the campus would be really a good initiative to do. And they could also maybe help with finding posts and stuff for the page. With finding posts for the Facebook page. Help me with that.
That sounds like that's really what an interest. Start with tiny, concrete things that your friends could be doing to help with the platform you've already got, and then let that give you ideas for how you could start doing the projects that involve all the hoops.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really clever.
And you had mentioned before that some of your friends give you sort of a hard time for your interest in all this stuff.
Yeah.
Is it a serious hard time?
No. It's just you joke around with your friends.
Yeah.
But it can be funny. For example, on the 4th of July, I was at the beach, and it was a big party on the beach, whatever, and I started noticing that there was all this stuff washing out into the ocean, everyone just throwing their trash all over the ground. So I was like, it's all just going to go into the ocean. So me and one of my other friends, and she's kind of into this too, we started pushing it up because the tide was coming in. So we started pushing up all the trash up onto the beach and putting it higher up so that the ocean wouldn't take it out. And some of my other friends were like, environmental studies major over here cleaning up the beach. I was like, yeah, why aren't you helping?
All right.
So
that was this July.
Yeah.
Here.
It was in Martha's Vineyard. Yeah. So just that's an example.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't really anticipate a lot of pushback if you start a club?
No, not in a mean way. No.
Yeah, I'm just curious if you get a sense being there that there's enough people who you can get together.
Yeah, I definitely think there are. A lot of my close friends there, I would definitely be into it. And yeah, I think there would be.
Yeah, that's great.
So that leads to the question I've been thinking. You were talking about celebrities and how this is a thing of millennials, that millennials will follow celebrities. And Leonardo DiCaprio says X and we will all bow down and go after him. But you've also been talking now about your relationships with your friends, your one-to-one friends. And you were also saying that when you post when you post something on the Facebook page and then you send it to your friends, there's certain responses. And I'm thinking the one-to-one with friends or the media with friends is a very different way of reaching people than saying, yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio. Mm-hmm. Have you thought about how those different things go together? What's most effective? How do people, have you had an experience of putting something out and people really responded? Or people putting something out and you thought it would get a great response and it didn't? Have you had any kind of...
You mean like with the Facebook page?
With
or like
Facebook
just in
or
general?
with talking to friends or with, your action on the beach.
Yeah.
Have you noticed anything of what seems to work and what doesn't? I guess that's my question.
Okay. They're kind of similar in a way. People follow celebrities, but you also tend to do similar things that your friends do, or if your friend is interested in something and they're talking about it, you might be interested in it too because you like your friend, so you think whatever they like, you might like something like that. I can't really think of a specific example of something that didn't get as much of a reaction as I thought it would, but I would think at like my beach example, I would have hoped that more people would have noticed instead of just standing there watching the beer cans go into the ocean,
Yeah.
And no one really noticed, so I guess that was surprising. Even if you're not like an activist, I think you would at least notice things like that and be worried about it.
Yeah, that's very striking.
Yeah.
I think they might have noticed you being out there doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
So that might be the
hopefully.
turning point for them.
Yeah.
So no one else helped, just
Well,
the two
my
of
friend,
you.
one of my, yep.
No one else pitched in.
No.
I just started reading a book, and unfortunately I can't remember the author's name, but it's called Contagious. Does anybody else know it? It's it's 4 years old already, which, given that it's talking about how things go viral, it matters that it's 4 years old already. But it's very interesting, and he talks about different aspects of this that we're kind of getting at right now. And one of them is that word of mouth, at least 4 years ago, was way more effective than any of the social media things. Mm-hmm. And part of it is sort of what you're saying, which is that term social capital. So if you have like a cool story or you have Leonardo DiCaprio, on your side, that means more to people because it's sort of like a hook. It's like you look cool if you're doing something associated with somebody cool, or if you have a cool
so then
story,
everyone else wants
then
to
everybody
cool.
else wants to join you.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting book about the guy who wrote it was, at least at that time, teaching marketing at the Wharton School. And so I think it's really relevant to all this. That's why I started reading it. But it looks very good. I only just really started it. But I think that idea, because I grapple with that too, for different reasons, but all this same kind of thing is how do you get people engaged in an idea and get into that sense where you're all working towards something in a positive way. This business of not just going like, oh my God, I can't stand it anymore. But how does that happen? How do those things sort of go viral? How do you get that momentum? How does that happen? So it looks like it's going to have a lot of useful information in it.
Yeah.
The author's Joan Berger. She looked it up.
Okay, great. Thanks. So I can recommend it on the basis of 2 chapters. That's good.
So taking that whole thinking about what makes something go viral, I would love to know a year from now what you've observed about what makes. Obviously, you don't have the answers right now. I just threw you the question.
Yeah.
But in a year's time, maybe you could tell us what you've noticed. You've got all these friends who are into marketing, who are also trying to make their product go viral, right?
Yeah.
So it'd be very interesting to hear what you're noticing about why things catch on or why they don't.
Yeah.
Just your observations in your own experience in Tulane.
Yeah.
sometimes I think that if a way of looking at this is sort of there's like chaos theory, where I'm sure there are many, many little groups of people around the world, around the country, around the world, that are thinking about how do we make this kind of thing catch on better, and it's a little bit like a big pile of sand where the sand isn't moving, but a little grain is sliding here and another one there. But the nature of chaos is that all of a sudden, a whole bunch of that sand is going to all move together because all of the little movements combine into big movements. And so, I mean, just the size of the crises that we're dealing with make it seem very likely that this kind of aspiration will have a stronger, massive effect.
Yeah, I hope so.
Right.
So, Eliza, you're sitting in a room of people, most of whom are old enough to be your grandparents, and a couple who aren't quite that old. And what would you like to say to these generations at this point?
I guess.
You don't have to be polite.
No, I'm glad that you all care, even because, most of it will happen in my lifetime, but I think it's nice that you're worried about that for us.
Well, given that we created it.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Well, it all started when Jim was born.
Yeah.
1949.
Yeah, same year I was. We did it all, Jim.
And I think another big motivator, I don't know how much this would resonate with people my age since it's not really on our minds yet, but is everyone's worried about what's going to happen to their kids and their grandkids. So I don't really know if that works for people my age. I think it's more what's going to happen to you will be better at this point. Maybe in a couple of years it'll be what's going to happen to your kids will be a better point to get people thinking, but I think you guys are the ones who can spark it for younger people like me to do something. So
How do we do that?
by doing what you're doing. I mean,
Well,
for
how-
me, like just
Right.
teaching us about it.
Right, we
Yeah.
created an organization that talks about eco-restoration as a climate solution.
Yeah.
Anything else? Because there aren't that many people who are doing this specific thing.
Yeah.
What about?
I don't mean specifically. I just mean anyone who has knowledge and has been educated on these things. Telling younger people about it really doesn't have to be through an organization. It could be like anyone's parents or friends or whatever. And like I said, the talks at the high schools. It could be coming from anyone who has experience and knows about it. Because then that'll spark younger people to do something about it. Because we don't have all the knowledge and education yet, and you need to pick the right path to get that. So I think you're like the guidance, I guess I would say.
When we first started talking about this meetup, we were thinking that it would be about hearing from you how we might get other people your age who are actually very concerned, but who are focused totally on emissions reduction and on renewables and getting divestment from fossil fuels.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether you have any thoughts about, there's a group of people who are actually already are aware that there's a problem. Maybe they don't understand quite how serious it is.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts about how those folks, how you could reach those kids, those young people, and help them see that this is actually, I shouldn't say more important, but maybe at this point in time it is more important for them to look
Other
this way.
possibilities. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, I think you just have to find a way to tell them. I mean, I don't know how, I necessarily could reach everyone, but just because I didn't know that eco-restoration was a solution until I started to come work for you guys, and I found out because my mom went to Sharon McGregor's talk, so I guess that's a way to do it. Just host things to tell as many people as you can, and then they'll tell people that they know, and then more people will find out about it and think it's interesting. So
that's the going
by word of mouth, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's a really good example of how that works.
Yeah.
But don't only focus on verbal communication, because leading by example, like your 4th of July example, has an effect. I lived with a woman in Framingham for 4 years, and we used to take a walk every day on Farm Pond. And when we first started doing it, we both were kind of grossed out because it was a trash heap. And so we bought some of those little trash picker-uppers, and every day we'd go in there with a trash bag. And after several months, we got down to picking up cigarette butts because everything else we picked up.
That's awesome.
And it was very gratifying at some point later to see that people, first of all, weren't throwing away trash because it wasn't a mess. And then we started seeing people picking up stuff.
Wow.
And that was really nice. And we didn't do anything about it. We were just doing it because we wanted a nice place to walk, and it was disgusting. But it, it kind of caught on.
That's cool.
And it was totally by example and role model kind of stuff. So don't undervalue. You are, I mean, when I was teaching in economics, I used to talk about people being a signaling process. Everything you do is signaling who you are and information about you. And if you live the dream, other people notice. And maybe initially they'll kid you or criticize you or whatever because they're threatened by it. But if you show that you're committed to it, eventually you break down those defenses and you teach that way. And it can be very effective.
We had, the reason I was late tonight was there's monarchs in the front yard, first time in 3 years.
Wow. Great.
We always grew flowers in the front yard, and the owners of the house always wanted to have echinacea and lilies and all these things, and that's always been great. But there's been a kind of a battle going on between some of us no accounts that why don't we keep the milkweed growing out there? And monarchs need the flowers to get the sugars, but the milkweed's where they lay the eggs so the babies can grow up. And I can't wait to see the first caterpillars that I've seen. I haven't seen monarch caterpillars in a lot of years, but to me the idea of biodiversity, that whole idea of having a totem, sharing things that you really wish you'd see more of, and doing what you can to make that happen, learn their life cycles and things like that, and it was a pretty exciting day to see more than one monarch. I've seen one monarch at times, but I'm seeing more than that this year. So.
Actually saw one in my backyard today.
All right.
It must be this season.
We have a
I just thought of that or someone yesterday.
So maybe it's a wetter year and it's good for the butterflies.
We have a former garden that's now just weeds that are like 10 feet tall.
Right.
It still looks kind of pretty. And the butterfly clearly liked it. So
Yeah, there you
That's
go.
great.
yeah.
So it's getting to be time where we end the conversation part and schmooze for a while, and I would like to give my commercial break here, where we are a small nonprofit and we are working all the time to bring the solution to the world of the power of nature and the power of biodiversity. And when we restore billions of acres of land that have been degraded, we get to a new era of photosynthesis and pulling carbon out of the atmosphere and restoring the biosphere with more water and more food and a cooler air and a whole bunch of other benefits because it's nature's package deal. So I would like to encourage you to participate in all of this, and you can do that by giving us a monthly donation. We get monthly donations from $500 to $400, anywhere in between. And you can even go over $400 if you like. But $5 helps a lot. So please go to our website, click the donate button, and donate. And we ask everybody here to give a $10 donation to help our meetups continue to meet up. So thank you very much, and
Passing the can.
thank you to Eliza.
It's at least as good as Dunkirk, right?
Let's. Okay, you're on, Eliza. Just wave goodbye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yay!